We're live.
Welcome in, everyone. I am Jack Neary. We've got Mr. Matthew Scott live with us today. We are talking fantasy football risers 2021 and what teams got better after this NFL draft. How are you doing, Mr. Matthew Scott?
I am good. I'm wearing my Edelman jersey to say thank you for his services.
Hashtag Matt's Pats. I love it. So thank you for his services. That means Edelman, we've waved goodbye.
We've waved goodbye, and it's very unlikely he goes to the Bucks. I think he's going to shut that rumor down.
It's just a rumor? Just a rumor, huh?
So it'd be very unlikely he ends up wearing a Bucks jersey. He won't do a Gronk.
He won't do a Gronk. Oh, the Patriots fans are still mad about that, huh? They're calling it doing a Gronk now. You guys have a whole theme for it, right?
Yeah, we should have a meme for him, and he's got in the dictionary. But Gronk came back and said he loved New England, so we let him off. Even though he is from Buffalo, we let him off.
All right. Well, we've still got a little bit of love for Gronk, I guess. So, all right. So, who's your fantasy football, risers? Like let's start feeling it, right? Because it's May, and by the time we know it, we're going to be in July, and we're starting to do mock drafts. What are your thoughts so far?
Well, like we looked at this year. For me, I think there was probably half of the NFL teams had a big need for certain positions because of were they defensively weak. Were the quarterbacks needing protection because of the number of sacks they were getting? Were the inside linebackers not generating sacks? And did they have a franchise quarterback or not? And I think this year there was probably about 10 teams that had a really, really good free agency and draft where they set themselves up at least for the next 2 or 3 seasons. And obviously, I've got a list of those players that fall into the category of helping the team now, and the players I think that could be those franchise players for the next 5-6 seasons as well. So I've got a breakdown across 10 teams. I think that will show the viewers of what impact they can have and what demand they're meeting.
Okay. So let's hear from some of them. I'm here. I'm listening to you.
Well, I mean, the first team for me is the Jets. So, first of all, we all know the Jets need the franchise quarterback. They only had 16.
Did they get him?
And they got him. Zach Wilson.
Jets fans have heard this story before. They're very frustrated over just hearing that story. You have to understand, Sam Darnold's a franchise. Mark Sanchez was going to be there forever. Geno Smith, golden arm. The Jets fans hear this every year. How can you reassure them?
Well, Zach Wilson has the tools to be good. But like I was saying to you before off air, he's been rushed into playing now. So every quarterback has potential to be a bust. But he'll be given a couple of years. That Sam Darnold was given 3 years. Zach Wilson, his first year, for any rookie quarterback, you've got to give him half a season to get used to the NFL pace before you can start saying the job shouldn't be theirs. And I think Tua and Jalen Hurts in the situation of they had some time back end of the season. If they're not up to pace within the first end of the month for this year, then you know what they can do. And I think he's got at least 12 months to settle into the NFL pace before they start putting pressure on him.
Here's a couple guys that I have. Okay.
Yeah.
I really like what the Giants have done. Okay, for all the Giants fans out there that don't believe in Daniel Jones, understand the Giants do believe in Daniel Jones. Okay,
so Waddle and Golladay, you think were no excuses now?
Well, not only that there's no excuses, but they brought in Garrett. Garrett's an Ivy League guy. Obviously, Daniel Jones went to Duke, so they brought in a guy that can work with him and understands his terminology. Okay, Saquon Barkley's coming back from injury. They laid money out for Golladay. Ingram, if he can ever catch a ball, is a really great tight end. Slayton, he's a fine number 2. And then they drafted Tony from Florida.
Tony, yeah.
And I think
Tony's a gadget player, though.
I don't know if that's necessarily true, because I think Tony could beat every linebacker in the game. And he's just a little bit quicker than safeties that are going to come down at him. He's going to create space. That's what he's really going to do. You're not going to be able to guard Barkley and Tony out of the backfield. I just don't think you can do it. And Galladay's going to be good down the field long anyway. So I think Daniel Jones, to me, because they took those guys and added in the free agency, I believe he's got to get a fantasy football bump. I have to believe that. Don't you?
No, I do agree with that as well. And I think Drew Lock, for me, is somebody of, I want to put, last year I did this as well, and I'm always cautious with this. On that basis, I want to put Drew Lock into that category. Because he's got Jerry Jeudy, Cortland Sutton's back, Tim Patrick, KJ Hamler. He's got weapons there.
I tell you what, I would rather, for my money, because I think he's going to drop. He's certainly not a sexy pick. A long time ago out of Boston College, super sexy ladies, I understand. But Matt Ryan, to me, I would much rather take the chance on Matt Ryan in the 9th round, because he now has Julio Jones, Calvin Ridley, and Kyle Pitts. And Matt Ryan's proven that he's going to give you at least 4,000 yards passing, and he's going to give you 30 touchdowns. And I don't think there's a huge difference between where him and Mr. Locke get drafted. What do you think?
No, I agree. They'll both be. I think Matt Ryan will be mid kind of round 7, round 8. I think Drew Lock will be back end. Tua, now he's got Waddle. And obviously the Dolphins have got more weapons as well, because obviously with the Dolphins this year, they've gone and picked up some serious players this year. Mm-hmm. What do you think they're going to do? Obviously now they've got Waddle, now they've got Fuller. Do you think that makes him a better quarterback?
I you know what I do? Actually, that's a good comparison. I'd like whomever got Waddle, because I believe that Jalen Waddle is student of the game. He's an excellent route runner, and he understands his routes. It's not just straight up the middle, or he's a slot guy. He actually understands how he's manipulating defenses. For all you guys, go watch Jalen Waddle's tape. Not only is it very good, he knows what he's doing. He knows what he's doing to the defenses for the quarterback. That's a big deal to me. And Tua is a meek guy, and I believe that Jalen Hurts is also trying to find himself in the NFL. And if you're trying to find yourself in the NFL, it's fantastic to have a guy to lean on that's going to come back to my huddle and let me know what's going on with that defense out there. And I think that's Jalen Waddle. Now, Fuller's a speedster. I don't think he's, as
Fuller won't play more than 10 games.
That's fine. But I do believe that he does help while he's there. And I think that Jalen Waddle is a student of the game, and I think he definitely helps Tua, and if not, then you got to go back shopping again if Tua is not your guy.
And what's your take on if Cam Newton starts this year? Now that we've got Aguilar, we've got Kendrick Bourne, we've got Hunter Henry, we've got Jonnu Smith, we had the 4th best offensive line last year. We've got to improve that further by picking up Christian Barmore. So he has no excuses now.
Right. This will be the best version of Cam Newton that you'll get.
Yes.
I don't know if it's going to be much more. Like, I don't believe that Cam Newton went out last year unprepared. I don't think that he didn't put time in the gym.
He was in a situation where we had players opt out. We had no off season. Didn't have a camp. And the only bright spot of our whole offense last year was really Jacoby Myers. Yeah. So
but I don't believe
no weapons. Bird was our 2nd best receiver, and he was terrible.
I mean, I think you'll see a little bit more from Newton. I don't think he has much left, and that's he's put his time in the NFL. I mean, obviously Belichick knows, because you guys drafted, Jones, right? He had drafted Mr. Mac Jones,
and I don't think he wants to rush him in. I think he is looking at the situation. He's as a coach, I think he probably wants to look at the situation of Bledsoe, hang him in there. He's experienced. We don't want to chuck a guy in and do a headlight situation. So I think Cam Newton will be better this year. Can he throw for 25, 30 touchdowns? Yes, he can.
He can. I kind of have the feeling that you're going to see Mac Jones a lot quicker than New England wants to put Mac Jones out there.
What record? So for us, I generally think that 17 games now, we should be winning a minimum of 12 games with the roster improvement we've had.
Wow. Okay. All right. Well, guys, hashtag Matt's Pat, so he knows, right? Matt NFL advice on Twitter. Guys, always check out Mr. Matthew Scott. He knows his stuff. I tell you what. Here's another.
Which team surprised you this year the most? Which team had the biggest improvement, but really surprised you of how aggressive they were?
In terms of the draft or in terms of players?
Their approach, their players they picked up, and what team hit the nail on the head and went, do you know what? What team ticked every box to you?
I'll tell you what. One was, and it's kind of where it's kind of where I started. Okay, I really do believe that the Giants did what they said they were going to do. Okay, they put talent around their guy that they drafted. They put talent around Daniel Jones, and I don't think I thought what Atlanta did was smart by not bailing on Matt Ryan. Like, you can grab a quarterback, sure, or you can help the guy out a little bit more there. That's proven he's not garbage. You know, Matt Ryan's going to have a fine 2 or 3 more seasons. Then you go grab a quarterback, and you're still going to have Kyle Pitts.
And then they've declined Hayden Hurst's 5th-year option as well, which goes to show he was phenomenal last year, and I think he'll still have an impact. But I think they'll probably try and trade him next year.
It's like anything in life. Just be yourself, right? That's probably the best advice that you can get in life. Go out there and be yourself. If Justin Fields was trying to be Justin Fields during his pro day, he maybe would have gone higher, but he was trying to be Zach Wilson. Just go out there. No, but I'm serious. Go out there and be yourself, right? You go out there and try to play to someone else's strengths. All you're going to do in life or in football is show your weaknesses. I think Christian McCaffrey gets a downgrade. Okay, you're not going to see the 100-yard reception games and 200-yard rushing game. You're not going to see the insane volume that McCaffrey has produced over the years. He gets a downgrade to me because Carolina drafted
Chuba Hubbard and Terrence Marsh Jr. are going to affect his value.
Well, I mean, Chuba Hubbard has real track speed. I mean, that's not a joke. He has track speed, and Christian was banged up last year. So I believe that you're going to see Chuba Hubbard probably get 13 touches a game, and these McCaffrey owners who are going to expect him to touch the ball almost 30 times are going to be disappointed. I really do. I don't believe that. I think the only guy that you can expect to get the same volume from last season is probably Derrick Henry or Nick Chubb.
And I know the Robinson situation with the Jags.
Yeah.
Do you think having a 1-2 punch like Etienne and Robinson will ease the pressure off Lawrence, so that will make Lawrence a better quarterback for fantasy?
I do. And you know what? I wouldn't be afraid of drafting Trevor Lawrence at all whatsoever, because my prediction for Trevor Lawrence this season, for all you Jacksonville fans that are buying jerseys and really excited about this guy, I think he could have the Justin Herbert ceiling. Justin Herbert's not going to look very good against Matt's Pats, but I'll tell you what, the rest of the time, right, Justin Herbert's going to go out there and put in fantastic numbers. I lost Dak Prescott last year, but I picked up Justin Herbert, and he kind of balanced me out. I think Trevor Lawrence is going to have a great year. I think he's a fantastic talent. And yes, both of those, to answer your question, both of those players, James Robinson and Travis Etienne, are both going to ease his troubles. And it's not like he hasn't played with Etienne, his whole life.
I mean, one player that I really like this year, and I like last year, I think Joe Burrow. Now they've improved the offensive line. He's got Jamar Chase. AJ Green has gone, and I think AJ Green was going to go anyway. I think now, next year, he's learned the NFL speed. He got injured. He's going to come back. I'm not sold on Joe Mixon. You know that anyway. But I just think next year, I've got more faith that Joe Mixon is going to be a more consistent performer game in, game out.
Ooh, did I maybe talk you into that a little bit? That he's going to be a little bit more consistent because they have that offensive line maybe figured out in Cincinnati?
Yeah, I mean, if you look at how they drafted, and I think it's they went for a centre in Trey Hill. They went for a tackle in Dante Smith. They went for Tyler Shervin, defensive tackle, Cameron Semple, defensive tackle, Cameron Jackson, tackle, and that was after Jamar Chase. So they did what they needed to do, a bit like the Panthers did in 2020. They went with, we had no defense, so most of their draft was defensive based, and that's what the Bengals did this year in terms of the offensive line.
I mean, let's just throw this out there, right? I like being honest with people. If you guys thought Justin Jefferson was good, wait for Jamar Chase. Jamar Chase is going to be really, really good.
Yeah, I think he could beat out Tyler Boyd.
Oh, I wouldn't even. That's not even a question. Tyler Boyd's the number 2 now. That's it. That's it for all you Tyler Boyd lovers. Listen, I understand it, but Tyler Boyd is now the number 2 in Cincinnati. Actually, who did Cincinnati have there last year who had a decent season, rookie?
T. Higgins.
Right. So T. Higgins, Jamar Chase, and Tyler Boyd will be left fishing for scraps. That's how I feel.
And the other person, we both loved him last year, and after Tyrod Taylor, obviously the medic situation, and it was unwarranted. But Justin Herbert, now that they've gone out, they've got Rashawn Slater, the best tackle in the game, Asante Samuel Jr., one of the best cornerbacks in the game. They got Josh Palmer. They went and got Chris Rumpf, Brendan Jemis. They got Corey Kingsley in the center in free agency as well. I think Justin Herbert, I know he is going to be touching 35, 40 touchdowns last year, minimum.
And you know, getting a little bit of help, getting a little bit of extra time is only going to make Justin Herbert better. Justin Herbert's an absolute stud. And I'll tell you what, I hope that Tua works out in Miami, because he's being compared to Justin Herbert, and it doesn't look close right now. It doesn't look close right now. I was
going to say, the big issue with the Chargers last year was that they gave up 29 passing touchdowns and 17 rushing yards. So their big issue was they were getting up nearly 27 points on the defense every game. So as long as they can reduce that, it will give Justin Herbert more time playing in front rather than playing behind, where he has to make those big plays.
You there?
Yeah, I'm still here.
Yeah. All right. So I want to talk about this real quick. So the Eagles drafted Kenneth Gainwell from Memphis. Okay. That's a fact. They did that. And yesterday they picked up Kerryon Johnson. Detroit let him go. And Philadelphia was, they wanted to pick him up. They wanted to explore other options at running back. How should Miles Sanders owners feel?
Begrudged. Because if Kerryon Johnson couldn't make it in the Detroit Lions and it was the worst running game in the NFL, why is any of the team going to look at him like he's going to make your running back team more dynamic?
Because I think when he's healthy, he's good. When he's healthy, he's good.
Like Josh Adams has stuck around that running back room for a long time and done nothing. There's false hope that Kerryon Johnson is going to be something he's not. The Lions also had Bo Scarborough that had 2 or 3 good games, and suddenly they believe that he's going to be the next big thing. This faith in Chase Edmonds has always been there, that he's going to be the next big thing. Never been the next big thing. Kerryon Johnson is just memories of a couple of big games, and can he do it again? And he might do it 2 or 3 times a year. That's all he's going to do.
Could it be possible, though, that we're halfway through training camp? You and I are much more tan because we've gone to the beach a couple times, right? And all of a sudden you're turning on Philly radio and people are talking about how Kenneth Gainwell looks really good in camp. And by the way,
Gainwell, like as an undrafted, he's Kenneth Gainwell's going to be brilliant. And I know that the running back class wasn't great, and there was a few good undrafted free agent signings there as well. But I think he will definitely eat into Boston Scott. There's no doubt about that.
Well, do you think that we could be talking about just this 3-headed monster, this timeshare in Philly? Again, when Kerryon Johnson's been healthy, if you're hearing things in camp that he's pushing Sanders because he's healthy, I mean, what should fantasy owners do? Could you? So Miles Sanders was going in drafts last year. For everyone listening, he was going in the second round. Would you be comfortable drafting Miles Sanders in the second round again this year?
I've done the mock drafts, and I've been taking him the 4th or the 5th.
4th or 5th. Now, guys, I want you to pay attention to that. Right, we've got Matthew Scott here, and he's already been doing some live mock drafts. He wouldn't be confident with Miles Sanders in before the 4th or 5th round. I think that's smart. I think, and he could start sliding. Yeah. You start getting that information out that Kerryon Johnson's starting to push him. I think those two could be neck and neck in drafts. That's how I feel.
Yeah, no, I agree. Like I say, you always want at least 2 running backs in the first 5 rounds. And I think at the moment, if you don't get one of the top running backs, if you don't get a CMC, a Barkley, a Delvin Cook, an Alvin Kamara, a Nick Chubb, Saquon Barkley, if you're not in the top 6, you want to go for a running back. You want to go for a wide receiver first of all. So I think he's a good option for a strong running back too, but you can get him the 4th or the 5th. So that's good value for me for him.
Yeah, and we're going to be getting into strategies coming up in the next couple weeks. The NFL schedule comes out May 12th. That's going to be a huge day. We'll have much more clarity next week. When we start talking about what teams look like and who's playing who and cold weather environments, all that other stuff. I want to talk about this as well. Ian Book went in the 4th round. That's a quarterback out of Notre Dame. All right, you guys could play the fight song in your head while I talk about this. Right? No, but I'm serious. Ian Book to the Saints is interesting. And it's interesting because it's the type of quarterback that Sean Payton wants. He doesn't care about he's almost like Kyle Shanahan. If you can run my scheme flawlessly, he wants a smart guy. Drew Brees is from Purdue. Now he took this kid in the 4th round from Notre Dame. He could be a hot waiver wire ad mid-season. How do you feel about
I've downgraded Michael Thomas on the basis if Ian Book plays. Even if Jameis Winston plays, I've downgraded him.
You've downgraded him?
Yeah. I know. Do
you think he starts the season in New Orleans?
Well, he'll be there for this year at least. I know he can run 5-yard slants anyway, but I've still downgraded him. Alvin Kamara, I'm okay. For me, on the basis if they have a quarterback like Ian Book start, then Alvin Kamara's value skyrockets. Okay,
and that's something to look at. I mean, I'm not knocking Jameis Winston. I just think it's interesting that all of a sudden, Ian Book could have been picked up in the 5th or 6th round, but Sean Payton wanted to make sure he didn't miss him. Obviously the talent is he's not a gunslinger, right? He didn't take him the 3rd round or even the 2nd round, but to take him in the 4th round does say something to me.
Well, if you look at the Miles Davis situation at the Texans, would you pick him on the wire waiver on the basis that he's going to have Philip Lindsay and Mark Ingram? He's going to have Randall Cobb, Brendan Cooks. He's going to have Brevin Jordan and Nico Collins.
I don't know what to make of the Texans. I don't necessarily think that they have a team plan, nor do they have a game plan for what they're doing. I think it's all fly by the seat of their pants. Hope somebody pans out. The Philip Lindsay and the Mark Ingram and all that doesn't make much sense to me.
Well, Philip Lindsay for me has got to have. He was in a timeshare with Melvin Gordon last year. This year, he's going to be 27. Mark Ingram's 30. He went from 1,081 rushing yards to 299 last year.
Yeah, it's because he's done.
So Philip Lindsay for me has got to be a player that has increased value.
It's
because
tough because
they will have to run the ball. They will be forced to run the ball.
They haven't. That's the problem. It's they've been trying to solve this offensive line, conundrum or quagmire, if you will, and they just haven't done it for years. It's a real problem, and they keep trying to put duct tape on it and masking tape on it and all this kind of tape on it, and they just can't do it. And, Lamar Miller was their best running back, and he was barely able to get past, tacklers at the line of scrimmage. And, for what it's worth, Lamar Miller's still better than those 2 other running backs I think they have in Houston right now.
No, I agree. I agree 100% on that.
But I think Ian Book to the Saints could be a real thing. I mean, if Jameis Winston makes mistakes, albeit on or off the field, okay, and we know how well he is prone to do that. I think that Taysom Hill could be a fantastic gadget player, and Ian Book could be your starting quarterback in New England. I do want to move on to this really quick. I believe that Ryan Fitzpatrick is going to play well in spurts. And by well in spurts in the fantasy world, I think that he could put up anywhere from 4 to 6 weeks, top 5 quarterback numbers. And that means Terry McLaurin will be scary.
No, I 100% agree on that one. Because one of the things I was looking at was obviously the pickups for them. So if you look at what Washington have done during the offseason, they picked up Curtis Samuel, which is for me, in terms of the free agency hot properties, they got the guy they wanted.
And he's just speed, right?
Yeah. He comes in, I think he's going to continue to be 800, 900 receiving yards, but he adds a dimension to them they didn't have before.
Sure.
Then you add on Dwami Brown from obviously a rookie pickup, 1,000 yards the last 2 seasons, speed, height, wins high balls, wins contested balls, great route tree, but he adjusts his body to make sure, even in tight windows, he beats the secondary to the ball.
And Fitz is going to throw them there.
Yeah. And I think Fitzpatrick, he's an electric guy, and he will get on hot streaks. But I think and then Logan Thomas, I think, will hit and will improve further as well. They've got a strong offensive line. They've got a good secondary now. They also obviously brought in Jamin Davis. They got him in too early, first round, but he's a talent. Benjamin St. Just, one of the best cornerbacks in there as well. And then for me, getting someone like Tyler Henke there. Tyler Henke could be a good quarterback. Give him, the bridge could be play Ryan Fitzpatrick this year. Let Henke sit behind Fitzpatrick, learn. He can be a great quarterback for the next 5-10 years. But he's got the weapons there. He's got the protection there to improve and not be under pressure all the time.
Yeah, I mean, those guys are just straight, like you said, they win balls. I mean, it's not so much about your height in the league anymore. It's more about how dynamic you are in space. Can you win jump balls? Those are the things that are starting to take precedence in the league. And Fitz, you need a quarterback that's at least going to give your wide receivers opportunities to win those. And Fitzpatrick has always done it. And by the way, this isn't a hot take. Okay, Fitzpatrick hasn't been the starting quarterback on any team that he's been on over the past 4 seasons. Yet
he's still got he's got a few more franchises to go before he starts on all of them. But I'm sure that's his goal in life now.
But yet this seems to happen every year. You go, oh, the guy with the beard, there he goes. Is that Connor No, that's Ryan Fitzpatrick. And he walks out there, and you're like, honey, I know you don't know anything about football, but this guy's like a million with a beard, like from ZZ Top, and he threw for 400 yards and 4 touchdowns again. And you just don't, and you think he's only going to do it for a week because defenses are going to figure them out. But he does it the next week and the next week and the next week, and he just gets on these hot runs. So I did want to bring that to the attention of the viewer.
I want to flip. One of the most exciting things for me was what the Browns did.
Okay, let's talk about the Browns real quick.
The Browns defense, not the Browns offense, the Browns defense.
All right, let's flip it.
Greg Newsome, first round, phenomenal pickup. Then Jeremiah Owusu-Kamara, the linebacker, phenomenal pickup.
Also Notre Dame?
Yep. Then Richard LeCounte, safety, another quality, talented player. Then you go and get the Jadeveon Clowney, free agency. You pick up John Johnson from the Rams in free agency. That says to me, Baker Mayfield won't be playing under pressure. He'll be playing most of the time in front. They can concentrate on powering the running game. And I just think overall that the Browns team just became the conference winners.
Oh, I like that. Is that's your call in Cleveland then,
that's
right?
My call. Yeah, I think they're better than the Ravens.
I'm actually with you. I think Cleveland's going to win that division. And for fantasy football purposes, if you guys haven't been paying attention to what Nick Chubb has been doing in that division, he's tearing them up. He just is tearing them up, and I don't think he's going to stop. I just think he's a different type of running back. Baker Mayfield's a fantastic leader of men, and that's another guy. No one wants to talk. Oh, Baker, he's not that good. He got hot last year, and Baker's another one that when he gets hot at the end of the year, I mean, you would turn around 295 yards, 4 touchdowns. I mean, he had
a few bad performances because of the strong wind.
Right, but I mean, he had one game last year where I think it was against the Titans, had 165 yards and 4 touchdowns at halftime. You're sitting there looking at your watch, going, "Excuse me, who's this Baker Mayfield?" But I would expect more of it. I think you're going to see 35-7 this year, 35-10. Baker Mayfield is all of a sudden starting.
Yeah, he's one player that I'm a lot sure on this time in fantasy than I was last year.
A lot sure, yes. You're sitting there going, you know what? I know that he's very discounted.
I could start Baker Mayfield beforehand. I would have had him in 2 QB leagues, and he would have been my definite second choice, and he would have been there with Kirk Cousins. But now I've got the confidence that I could start him in a week and know he'll put up good numbers for me.
Touchdown maker.
And one of the things as well was receiving cores. This year, there was something exciting about teams that went and filled massive gaps. So the Jets free agency, Corey Davies, which was a huge pickup. Keelan Cole was a big pickup. The Ravens went out and got Rashad Bateman, Tylan Wallace, Sammy Watkins. 2 teams that really needed upgrades. New England Patriots got Nelson Aguilar, Kendrick Bourne, Jonnu Smith, Hunter Henry.
The Ravens is interesting to me because they
went. The Lions was the big thing for me as well. Of the Lions are bad. Let's not forget this. There is no way the Lions aren't bad. But pre-draft they had Terrell Williams and Brashad Perryman. No one wants that. Don't you agree on that one?
So the Ravens is interesting to me because Rashad Bateman he's a wide receiver out of the University of Minnesota, and they're putting together a heck of a program up there.
He's a tight end build wide receiver.
Yeah, the thing that's great about him is he catches balls that are basically not perfect for him. Okay, off timing, off center balls, and Lamar Jackson's the guy in Baltimore now, and Lamar Jackson has won a few games with his arms. Before he was just a running quarterback. Now he's learning when to use his fantastic feet and his great tools. Right? Well, I'll do this here, or I'll run here, or I'll pass here. Oh, everybody thinks I'm running. Guess what? I can pass it now, and he's starting to do that with confidence and regularity. So Baltimore went, hey, you know what? You've put some time in the gym. Well, you look much better. We're going to get you some wide receivers. And that's what they did in this draft. And I think it really says a lot about Lamar Jackson. I was one last year and I was like, he'll never beat Patrick Mahomes because he's not willing to win with his arm. And there were a couple games last year I went, you know what? That one he won with his arm. Oh, look at that's a 30-yard gain that he could have picked up 5 yards with his toes and feet and could have gotten it. But he's not doing that now. And Baltimore's starting to spend some equity on him.
Do you think then that the Ravens' ceiling on Marquise Hollywood Brown has dropped?
I thought Hollywood Brown was a fine wide receiver. I never thought he was what everybody thought he was.
He would be the next big thing.
I don't think For me, I wouldn't draft him in fantasy football. I don't think he's great.
No, because I'm the same. I agree, but just so I know that the belief that he is the definite receiver one isn't there anymore.
No. Oh yeah. I think that's something that you could sit and hang your hat on. I think your wide receiver one's going to be Bateman real quick, because what's going to happen is, and we've seen it, if Lamar Jackson he likes you, and he's going to throw your ball your way a lot. And I don't think it's going to be to Hollywood Brown. I think it's going to be Bateman's going to catch 4 passes like this, and he's going to go, hey, if I throw him a little bit here and wide open, he'll run. And Bateman's going to be the top dog there. They'll be calling him Batman in Baltimore.
And what's your take on Devontae Parker this year with Will Fuller and Waddle there?
I'll tell you what, that's another guy that kind of fell underneath the radar, right? Oh, Devontae Parker, he's injury prone. Devontae Parker played last year. and he played injured and he played banged up. And every single week that he did play injured and banged up, he still put up good numbers. He was kind of tricky. You didn't know whether he was going to go, and then he'd tape it up and go. 6 receptions, 87 yards, and you feel okay with that. I would.
But Jameson Crowder's another one. Jameson Crowder put up good numbers for the Jets.
He did, but where's he going to land? Is he staying in New York?
I think. Would you play Elijah Mitchell over Crowder?
No.
Because that's the only time that goes in camp. If someone decides that Elijah Mitchell is better than Crowder, he'll go. But
no, I counted Crowder out a lot last year, and every time he stood on the field, he basically walked into the huddle and goes, "Darnold, throw it to me." Like, Darnold didn't even look at other wide receivers. It's like he didn't have a play drawn up. He just threw it to him. You know, I think he's really good. I think I would like to see him land on a team like Pittsburgh. So, teach those younger wide receivers how to catch and run with the ball, including Juju Smith. I think he helps out a young team like that, and you would be able to find out who your have and have nots were in that wide receiver room, because Jamison Crowder's good. So he's an alpha. He walks in and he goes, "Hey, look if you're not as good as me, get off the field." And some people don't like wide receivers like that. Look all your wide receivers are a little crazy. You're asking a man to run across the field and quite possibly get his head taken off for a ball, trusting from his quarterback it's going to throw to him.
And this is the big one in fantasy as well. I know Adam Thielen splits a lot of people. He's good for touchdowns, but could this be the year, a bit like Julio, where you start seeing his fantasy value drop because his targets drop?
Julio?
Yeah, Julio and Adam Thielen.
So Adam Thielen to me is I'm not interested.
Okay.
I'm just not. Adam Thielen was a fun story for a while. You've seen the decline. He's not this grand natural.
He's not a 1,000-yard receiver now.
No, not at all. I don't think he is. Do you?
Well, I
if he is barely, and maybe
that for me, he has TD upside to him still.
Yeah, sure. So I would, Adam Thielen, we'll put him at, 860, and we'll stat him out to 7 touchdowns. There, how's that feel? Kyle Rudolph's not there. Kirk Cousins going to first force the ball somewhere.
Because that, for me, makes Amar Smith-Marset an interesting prospect.
In Minnesota?
Yeah.
I mean, it could. The only asset I'm interested in up in Minnesota, I'm Justin Jefferson for sure.
Irv Smith Jr.
And Irv Smith Jr. Right. Yeah, I like him as well.
Sleeper, but he's somebody that I wouldn't want to put my eggs in one basket and say he's going to be great. He's somebody that I would want as a stash, but he's not somebody I'm going to trust to be my tight end one.
Well, you could take him late anyway. That's not going to, that's,
Yeah. I can get him in a 16-round mock draft. I can get him round 12.
What was the other guy you mentioned besides Thielen?
Amar Smith-Marset, the rookie that they took, and from Louisville. I think he's brilliant.
Yeah, I mean, you might be right. All right, we gotta go.
So yeah, plenty of options there as well. But no, it's looking good. And then obviously the last quick one is Titans. What's your view of outside AJ Brown now? They've got Josh Reynolds free agency. They picked up Des Fitzpatrick and they picked up Grayson McGrath. So I think the Titans will be better next year as well in wide receivers. But I think Des Fitzpatrick for me is a great sleeper. But I'm down on AJ Brown.
I only want AJ Brown, and because I think they're focused on just running the ball.
Oh, Derrick Henry for you.
Oh, Derrick, that's right. Give it to the workhorse. All right, ladies and gentlemen, that's all we have for you this week. Thank you for joining us, Mr. Matthew Scott. Do you have any last words?
No. Well, Matt's Pats. Hashtag Matt's Pats.
That's what we're doing. Hashtag Matt's Pats. Check him out at Matt NFL Advice on his Twitter page. We'll be back here next week streaming with Mr. Matthew Scott. More fantasy football, more NFL, more stuff for you guys to listen to. Enjoy the rest of your day.
And you. Thank you, sir.
Yeah, thank you.